welcome. We're going to give it a few seconds to allow everybody to come in on the meeting. So it does take a few seconds to let everybody in. So if you look down at the bottom of your screen, you will see the Q&A and the chat. We are going to ask you tonight, if you have questions, to go ahead and put those questions in the Q&A. It is easier for Melissa and I, as we tag team back and forth, to answer those for you. So, again, the Q&A is the best place. If you have a private one-off, you can send us individually in a chat, but try to stick to the Q&A if it's a general question. So, okay, just a few more seconds. It's still letting everybody in, so a few more there. Okay, so we've had a few more come in. So again, if you have questions during this process, we're going to go through this workshop and allow you guys to kind of navigate through what we're talking about. But if you do have those questions, put those in the Q&A for us. Melissa and I will tag team through the process again and answer those as much as possible as we get through that. And we'll also have an opportunity at the end to answer questions as well. So I think, Melissa, everybody is in if we want to go ahead and get started.
All right, perfect.
Great. So, okay, well, I'll start with myself. My name is Jennifer Hartman. Many of you have probably been here before and seen Melissa and I present on the topics here for College Aid Pro. Our number one goal and mission for families is, and you're going to see it up on our screen here in a few minutes, is really to help educate families and to help them navigate this process so they do this better. And it's saving on the cost of college, but also paying for the cost of college and knowing what those rules and things are. And that's about the education piece. So we hope you guys enjoy this webinar tonight and are able to get something from it and make this better for you.
All right. Well, I am Melissa Mieyr, and like Jennifer said, you've probably seen us before, but if you hadn't, just a short little introduction. I've been in education my entire profession, and I was a business career and technology teacher and supported a high school counseling office for 15 years and have been an independent consultant since 2015. So I really do enjoy this side of the table. And my husband and I don't have children, but we've had 19 foreign exchange students, and I've helped 2 of those come back and go to college. So you think the domestic side of college admissions is fun? Well, the international is even more challenging. So yeah, but it is definitely a challenge, but it is possible. You just got to take a little step at a time, and we're here to support you in all that. All right. Jennifer, you want me to go ahead and share my screen?
Go ahead and start that. That would be great.
All right. Perfect. Get that up and running here.
So if you want to, I know we kind of made our introduction. If you want to get to the screen so they know where to start, that would be fantastic.
Oops, lost my.
While Melissa is working on that and getting us to the slide, she's going to talk about where you can get onto this, where you start with College Aid Pro. I'm going to post that out in the chat for everyone to copy and paste if you haven't already started this process. But Melissa, I'll let you navigate through there.
Okay, so as you see on your screen, this is the image of our platform. So Jennifer's going to plop that website and coupon code in the chat. So make sure, if you have not created your MyCap account, that you go ahead and do that. That is going to be very helpful as you go through this process. We will share with you a few places tonight. We'll stop and pause and go through some of that. And the teacher in me says, make sure you have it so you can follow along. So really important for that, because this is just the beginning piece of this whole puzzle, and you want to make sure that you have those tools ready to go. So click on that link and put in that coupon code to do that, and we'll be talking about that more in just a minute. So Jennifer, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, it's great. Thanks. So for those of you who have been on a few of these webinars, you'll know we've already covered what this means, but it's important to, if you haven't, it's important to understand this piece, because this is the beginning of what we begin to see with award letters. So the question is what is financial aid? And that's what's broken down in those award letters that you're receiving. So the buckets of money that we're looking for to reduce that cost of attendance coming from the colleges really fall in these 3 categories. And the first two are going to be our primary. This is really those free dollars that we want to see come to us and our student to help reduce that cost. The first bucket is going to be those need-based grants. These are based on the family's financial profile. That being said, some families are not going to be eligible. So then we focus on the next bucket, which is going to be our merit-based scholarships. This is also free money, of course, but this is based off the student's profile. So this could be academics, talents, or anything that the school is wanting to pull in and reward that student for. The third one is going to be our self-help. This is not free money. They do put it in on the award letters, however. So it's important to understand and differentiate between what type of award you are getting, so you know which ones are given to you and do not have to be paid back, and which ones are not. And this last one, the self-help, is not free money. You do have to work for it, or you have to work somewhere else for it and pay back the loans. So that's what self-help is. Okay, Melissa? Excellent, great. So the first bucket, when it comes to need-based aid, how are they getting to what our need will be for the college? And the beginning is understanding where we start, and that's the cost of attendance. Every school determines their own cost of attendance. That is built by our direct and indirect costs. That's tuition, room and board, our direct cost, and our indirect costs are going to be our travel and miscellaneous expenses, books and other miscellaneous fees. But all in, that's going to be the total cost of attendance that is determined by that school. That's a sticker price. And then when we fill out our financial aid forms, these are what the schools are using to get that, what we call student aid index. This is not a number that is specifically like what you're going to specifically pay. This is just an index number that the schools use to minus off the cost of attendance to get to what they say is your need for that school. So it's important to understand these aspects when you start getting your award letters and determining whether you received that need-based aid correctly or the merit-based aid that you're looking for. Okay. So if you don't qualify for need-based aid, the important things to remember is that we, need to focus on what we're looking for in the scholarships. How does our students fit into that? And sometimes that comes down to obviously our school list, but how do we reach out and get those scholarships in there? Some of our schools, like the Ivy Leagues and Ivy-like schools, are not going to be giving any merit-based awards. It's only going to be those need-based awards. So we have to be aware of that as we walk in. But if you're not going to get those need-based aid, you're going to make sure that we're focusing on the schools that are going to give those merit dollars. We want those to compete with one another. We want to make sure they're going to offer those same things. And there's apples to apples, meaning there's similar schools. So you can use those awards to leverage one school against the other, your prime pick over the other. So Melissa, you'll go to the next one. Okay, great. So when it comes to the merit-based award, when we're asking for, where does it come from? That is actually going to come from your admissions office. So this is not your financial aid office. And this plays an important role to understand when we also want to do an appeal. So if we feel like we didn't get enough out of our merit, or we need more out of a merit aid because we're not getting any need-based aid, we're actually going to appeal back to our Office of Admissions, not the financial aid office. That is for need-based aid. Merit-based award is really something that it is utilized to put that student into a seat. It is a business. They're trying to entice that student over. So sometimes if they're not really a big givers, they're going to try to just give enough to get that student in the seat. And usually, I want to say most of the time, this is going to be awarded on a 4-year basis. Sometimes when we go back, they may offer something up for the year, but on a standard basis of awards on merit, you're going to be offered that for the 4-year period. Okay. So, and Melissa, I think I forgot to tap in, different schools award merit differently. So you do have to know that. That is important because when you do see your award letters, you'll see that some are based off of, they have a calculation. If you make a certain GPA or SAT score, you're awarded that automatically. Others are competitive. So if your student had some competitive scholarships, that's also done differently. They typically had to provide essays and other things in order to get that scholarship. So when I talk about need-based versus merit-based aid in schools and how they actually give or not give, these are great examples of schools that only give 100% of need-based and no merit. And then the other one is the merit-based aid. So when you start looking at their schools and balancing out your list or going, am I going to get more money from these schools? Well, some of them just aren't going to give you money. So even though you're a great student and you're absolutely fantastic, the problem is that they just don't give merit aid. So we have to accept either we get need-based aid or we don't qualify and we're paying full price. Okay, Melissa.
All right. So who, what, when, and how do we apply for these private scholarships? This is what you've been waiting for tonight. So we're going to get into this piece of it. So who should own this process? So definitely the money is going to the students. So they definitely should have a piece of this puzzle as far as making sure all of this happens. And so there are going to be applications, essays, and those kind of things that go along with submitting this or going through this process of getting private scholarships. So the student needs to be in charge of those things, but something that the parent can definitely help with. Many of them are going to ask financial questions. And so you will have to help supply that information to your student. But definitely the student will have to go through all of the other piece of that. And I really tried to share with students and parents, when you're doing this, it really can become a part-time job. But you want to think about it like this: is if you were working at the local burger shop or the local retail store and you were putting in these hours, were you going to get the same return on investment for those same amount of hours? So think about, I spend 2 hours putting together an application and an essay for this particular scholarship, and I get $1,000 in return. Are you going to be able to work at your local burger shop or retail store and in 2 hours make $1,000? I don't think so. So it is well worth the effort if you want to do this, but it definitely can be a part-time job in doing that. So work as a team together as students and parents. And students, I know, are very tired at this point. They have gone through all of the application process and writing essays, and now they're probably preparing for AP exams not too far down the road. And so it is a very, very daunting process. So you just have to, a little bit at a time. And we are coming up on those times, when deadlines are coming up for a lot of these. That range is, somewhere between November and March is kind of that big timeline there. A lot are due in the March timeframe. So you really want to make sure that you are checking out those opportunities and getting on those, because you don't want to wait, because they do take time to get in. And I know I'm in charge of a local scholarship in my area, and we timestamp those, so it does make a difference to us when they come in. If we've got a tie, we look at that. We look at when those things came in. So you definitely want to get on those and work through all of that. And you want to be very realistic in this process of thinking about outside scholarships. Outside scholarships, you're doing really good if you're, making somewhere between $1,000 to $3,000 on any one scholarship. And I would say, I know, working at the school for many, many years, that was my job when I was in the counseling department at the school. I was in charge of managing all of the scholarships from the local area as far as the database, keeping up with those. And $500, we saw a lot for $500, $1,000, $1,500. But the higher you go up, the fewer there are of those. And so it definitely can be, like I said, a part-time job, and it's going to take time to put into those. And many of these scholarships are a single year. So that's another thing that you have to understand. you have to go through this whole process again if you're wanting additional outside scholarships the next year. So you want to make sure that you are keeping these things on your radar as you go through that process. So whereas, in a merit-based situation that you are getting from the college, those are 4-year scholarships and those stay with you. So this is something you definitely have to do over and over again. So there you want to be very careful about those deadlines and stay on top of them, because if you miss them, sorry, you're definitely just out of luck on those sort of things. So a few tips when it comes to the private scholarships. Number one is shop local. Super important. So chambers of commerce, Lions Club, Rotary Club, women's clubs, your local utility co-ops, all of those kinds of things are your best bet whenever it comes to looking for those scholarships. That is where you're going to get your best bang for your buck as far as spending the time and reaping that benefit of those. And so just knowing, having been on that side, on the high school campus side, I did this for years, and sometimes I would look in our portal to see how many applications had come in for some of these ones that I was kind of keeping track of, and there would be very few students that were applying for these. And I would beg students, sometimes we don't want to not award this money to somebody on our campus, so let's go apply, please do that. And also when I'm working with the local chamber with the scholarship that I'm in charge of here, and we have 4 $1,500 scholarships that we give away, and less than 30 students apply each year. And that is just crazy, because the odds are really high that you're actually going to get something like that. So definitely look local, shop local for those things, and put as many applications out as you can for any of the local types of opportunities. So like I said, it's very low numbers that actually apply. And even sometimes when I beg students, they don't, and they really had a great opportunity in doing that. So really do look for those particular opportunities as for the local. So number 2 is our next tip is the scholarship portal that we have. We have the opportunity for you to utilize our platform for scholarships, and you can see that, and we don't spam you like all these others do, and you can filter based on some unique qualities or criteria for you. So I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to jump into the software, show you a few things, and show you where this is, and then we'll jump back into our other tips. All right, so before I get over onto the software, you can see your landing page. So your landing page, if you have not signed up and got your MyCap account, when you click on that landing page, you can scroll down here and you can activate your MyCap account and make sure that you are putting in your code. And that way, Providence has taken care of that for you so that it is free to you and is an amazing tool that you have that you can utilize. So I'm going to jump on over here into our software and show you a few things about our software and show you that particular little tool. So number one thing when you get in here is you want to make sure that your profile is as up to date as possible as far as it being complete. So over in the right hand corner where it says profile, jump in here and make sure that your personal information is complete. The more accurate this is, the better off you are going to be and the better results that you are going to have when utilizing the platform. So make sure all of that information is as good as possible. So the first thing that I want you to see, Jennifer talked about earlier, cost of attendance minus SAI equals your need. Well, remember up here is where you're going to find your potential SAI. So we've got the federal methodology, or this federal student aid index, and that is what comes from the financial aid forms called the FAFSA. And so that is what that is right there. And then the institutional SAI is what is calculated with those schools that use the CSS profile. And so you see a range in there because the CSS profile schools each utilize the formula a little bit differently, and some of them do utilize the home equity and others do not, or others use certain percentage of it. So that's why you see a range. And so that will show up on each one of those schools. So once you have all your schools in here, this is where you would come to and be able to see what that is going to look like for you. So again, right up here, cost, you can click on the school name or more information, and you are going to be able to see what kind of potential aid you're receiving. Are you potentially going to receive need-based aid, or are you going to receive merit-based aid, and what is that net going to be? So that's what you are wanting to see here at this particular position. And so we always want to get a better deal and take more money off of that net cost. So that's when we come into the scholarships that we're looking for. And we're talking about private scholarships tonight. So when you scroll down to this navy blue banner down at the bottom, you can see private scholarships and search for scholarships. So you want to click on search for scholarships. And when you do that, it's going to open up a new tab. And you can go in here and you can put different things in here, whatever area of study you want to put in. You see that it narrows it down, and you can look through the list of scholarships, find what is something that resonates with you. You can see where you go to find out more information through the sponsor of that scholarship and the application link. So you can utilize that to your advantage. And this is not going to cause you to get all the spam that you get from other sites. So that is embedded in part of that. So again, that's when you're at the top, you just scroll down right across here, that blue bar right there. Okay. All right, so I'm going to jump back into the presentation here. All right, so scholarship tip number 3 is you might want to think about creating a new email address to go through this process, because if you are utilizing outside resources to get that list of scholarship, or even once you start applying, because many of these are for businesses, for companies, you may start getting some spam. And so this will help avoid that. Also, it'll be a central location where it is only about, this college stuff. It's not about all your other life things that you get emails for. And so, if it's coming through here, it's potentially important. So that way you are checking it and paying close attention to it. And you want to make sure you're checking that regularly. And I also possibly encourage it be an email where both parent and student have access, so you can both watch that and stay on top of it so that you don't miss something. So just make sure that you are using a professional email, especially when you're turning that email in to these scholarship opportunities for them to be reaching out to you. You don't want it to be something silly and weird. All right, tip number 4. So deadlines and organization is super important. And as I told you, we're coming up fairly close, within probably about a month to 6 weeks before a lot of the scholarships are due, that are at top of mind right now, or at the forefront. There are some that kind of trickle throughout the summer, but that's kind of the real time on March is kind of when you see it kind of start to die off. So you want to go ahead and get started early, and highly recommend that you organize yourself in some way. So if it's a physical file, or if it's a digital file on your computer, or a digital file on your email, or whatever you're doing, wherever you're needing to keep records of some of these things, you want to make sure that you are organizing yourself. So find some way of doing that. You know, all of the documents that you're going to be turning in, or the applications, maybe you downloaded PDFs that you had to fill in or something like that. So organize yourself with, you know, a digital folder and keep up with those. Also, creating yourself a spreadsheet to manage the list of scholarships that you chose to go through, your student chose to actually apply to. So keeping dates, the names of the particular scholarship, where you go to get more information, and the application link, all those kinds of things. So creating some kind of spreadsheet and keeping up with the information is also very helpful in making sure that you don't miss deadlines and don't miss any details, because some of the other things that you might want to track are what are the other elements of, you know, particular documents or other things that they may be asking for. They may be asking for a transcript or something else that you have to turn in. So you want to keep up with all of those things. And there are also a few scholarships that may ask for a short little video essay versus a real essay. So that's something to think about as well. Those sometimes take time and planning to do. So you want to, again, definitely get started early and work through this process. There are some scholarships for underclassmen. They're not all for seniors. Some can be received by underclassmen, and they hang on to those until you go off to college. But again, this is something that you just have to keep track of, start looking at, keep organized, all those kinds of things as you move forward. Tip number 5, you want to make sure that you are completing the financial aid application. So the FAFSA and the CSS profile, that is step number 1 in this process for multiple reasons. Okay. There are scholarships that may require these things. They may want to know some of your financial information to give these scholarships. Some scholarships are simply through reading your essays, maybe an interview, and some are very based on need or other things like that. So there's many reasons why they might want to see financial records, but that's something that's really important. And also, you want to make sure that you are very aware of your state-specific programs and deadlines. So if there are state financial aid documents, all of those kinds of things, you want to make sure that you are getting those completed, because especially if it's something related to where you live, they might want to see those documentations completed as well. So making sure that you're staying on top of everything that needs to be done. All right, Jen, you want to drop into this one?
A second to take a drink of water there. Thanks, Melissa. So as Melissa was talking about the scholarship, one thing that's really important to remember in this is that when you are getting some need-based grants, so remember, even as high income earners, we can be getting those need-based grants because one is the schools are extremely expensive. And so you're still going to see a need sometimes in those. But when that comes to outside scholarships that may be applied, so if we get the scholarship and they apply it, if you're getting need-based grants, many of the schools are going to actually reduce that amount that you're getting from them. So they're just going to just place that down there. So sometimes it's not helpful if that school will not allow you to what we call stack those need-based or that need-based grant with another outside scholarship. That's called scholarship displacement. So we have to be careful and know going in whether that school is going to allow that or not. That's like key before we start putting all this effort in there. If we know the school we're going to go to, we should reach out to the financial aid and find out. The other piece is if we're basing this off of merit aid, generally speaking, you don't see schools take away any of that merit-based aid. In my time, I've never seen that. It can happen, but it rarely ever happens where they're going to take any merit-based aid. That scholarship is just an additional funding for you, and that's just stacked on top of there. But this is important to know. As I said, reach out to that financial aid office and figure that out before we start spending that effort into doing these outside scholarships, because they all handle it with their own policies and procedures. So it's important to understand that and not be disappointed when we spend a lot of time doing that. The other piece is, and as it says at the bottom, you can always appeal. So if you receive this outside scholarship and the school decides that they're not going to allow you to stack that on top of what you're already getting, I would absolutely go and appeal that for financial aid through the financial aid department, because we do that in order to help us maintain and manage those costs that we're taking as parents. I know I have 3 kids and we're doing this, and all those dollars count. It helps us flow through and pass through our own. So it's important to help those colleges understand this is why we're doing it. Melissa? Next slide. So as Melissa was talking about the different scholarships, and I talked earlier that, the schools typically are going to be giving those scholarships out as we're doing it now. So what we call our base year before we enter in, when they're offering you your award letters for your merit awards, those are going to be traditionally 4 years. Not all. There are some that they'll give you some small ones that are just for the year on top of what you're getting. But that's the important part. But when we talk about outside scholarships, Melissa, I think mentioned it, that typically those are only for 1 year. This one's a little bit different. We just bring this up because you need to notate, and it's important to see this, that when you're getting the award, was this a 1 year or was this a 4 year? And this particular one is kind of an odd one out. It is a 4 year. So Melissa, next slide.
All right. So Jennifer kind of briefly mentioned appeals a little bit. We are going to get more in detail in this later down the road in a few weeks, hopefully. We will be able to start this process of going through appeals, but it is not black and white. So we can appeal, we can ask for more money, and we typically, are very specific in what we do, and we want to make sure that we are continuing to show interest if you have not been accepted yet, and you want to make sure that as you get your packages, those will be coming along after the FAFSA works all of its kinks out and gets all that data to the colleges. And so if you haven't heard, the FAFSA, or the Department of Education, is not releasing any data to the colleges until mid-March. And so once that happens, then the colleges will produce those award letters, and those will be the official award letters. And many colleges are making different strides in what they've decided to do, and are asking families and students to submit other things to help them kind of preliminary make some decisions and be prepared for this process. So do understand that. But one of the things that you can do is be prepared as much as possible while you are waiting. Many colleges, I'm sure, have said, oh, you've been awarded X dollars for this merit-based scholarship. So at least you know that piece of information right now, and you can kind of prepare yourself and be thinking about, do I want to appeal at any of these schools? So I'm going to jump back into our software real quick. And one of the things, since we are in this kind of waiting game period, that you can do is kind of think about what your next steps are going to be. And so affordability is really important, and you want to know, where do you stand? And we're going to, again, be talking more in depth about all of this, about when to appeal and how to appeal. But one of the things that you can do is start thinking about, what is the cost of attendance going to be? What is that breakdown going to be? And what am I going to get in each and every one of these potential categories? And so where do I potentially stand? So that way you can be thinking through all of this and going, okay, maybe we don't have the official offer and we don't know everything, but this is what I know right now. And so you can be preliminarily thinking through all of that and decide that. And we're going to have another webinar later about appeals and all of that and show you how we can look at all that and see if it is a likely possibility that we do an appeal. So that's a place in the software where you can see that. So just utilize all of the steps. So it really is still very important for you to put your information in there and see how it plays out for your family, especially if you haven't possibly heard from a school. You can see where you might stand or where you might end up, and that way you can start planning and you're not having to make a decision within just a very short amount of time. You process this with as much information as you had, and then you're ready to easily move forward as you go through all of this process. So as we are starting to wrap up tonight, I want to explain to you, if you do need assistance, if you do need help whenever you are talking about a potential appeal or something like that, we can definitely help you. We are here to support you in all of that. And one of the ways that we can support you is by obviously utilizing our platform and watching our webinars, but we can also support you by you can book a time with Jennifer or I. So you want to book an hour for some help to go through some things, to read through your award letters and see if you've managed all this properly, or do you need some assistance in all this. So that is here for you as well. So that you just simply click on talk to an expert, and when you get in here you can do your 1 hour appointment. And so you can see that also right here. You can see all of that information and you can do that, and you can choose myself or Jennifer from the drop down list whenever you go in there. So as we end our evening tonight, we want to open it up for questions to see if anybody has any questions as it pertains to scholarships or any part of this process up to now.
Well, as we're waiting to see if there's if anybody has any questions, if you'll go back to the MyCap software, let's point out a few things before we get to the next webinar that's going to be coming up, and we're going to talk about appeals and whether we need to be doing that and how do we do that. I think it's important, if you scroll down just a little bit, Melissa, you're going to see whether you're going to start to know whether you're going to need to look at appeals or not when we start looking at the offers that are coming through. Melissa mentioned it a while ago. If you click on the more information, you're going to see, did it look like, according to your information, were you going to get need-based aids? Melissa, if you click on like more information, there you go. So it's going to say that cost of attendance, need-based aids, merit scholarships. So you won't get both of those. That's the important thing to remember. You're not going to get both of those. You're going to get maybe a blend, but it's going to be probably whatever the max number is on one or the other. That's about the max you'll get. So they'll do the merit scholarship, and then they'll get up to that need-based scholarship. So that's about where you should be looking at, being when you're looking at those schools, and should I appeal or should I not? Did I get a fair offer? That's one place you can start. The other places where Melissa showed you is upload those into the system. It's going to share that information with you as well. So as we start to get ready for this next phase, and that's the appeal process, whether we do it, do we get a fair offer? That's where we want to start navigating to looking at our own specifically and finding out where we fit in the game. So, and Melissa, I don't know if you can point back to where that was, that evaluate and appeal or translate and compare. Those two tabs over there are the places that you can input your appeal and offer letters, and that'll help you break that down and really see where you fit into that and whether you need to be doing that. So when we come to the next webinar, you'll maybe have some questions of your own after you've navigated and received all your offers in for your students. So I don't see any questions, Melissa.
Okay, well, if we don't have any questions tonight, then we are going to go ahead and sign off tonight. And please be watching for that next webinar, because we will be talking about appeals, also how to understand your award letters and what you are receiving, all that sort of stuff, and what those next steps are going to be. So please watch out for our next webinar, and we hope to see you on there. So we're going to sign off tonight. So good night.